Here we go. JJ Cooper back on Foul Territory. You can catch him all over Baseball America. Get yourself a subscription at baseballamerica.com, but also the star of Hot Sheet. But JJ, we felt like we needed you back on the show today to chat. So let's start with Nick Kurtz coming to the show. Are you excited? He just got drafted, obviously, last year, maybe higher than some expected, but he tore through the minor leagues. And how is this going to shake out with the major league roster?
That's the thing I'm most fascinated by here. I can't really find a scout. I can't find a coach who's seen Nick Kurtz play who doesn't think he's going to hit. But how is this kind of this Rubik's Cube, how this puzzle going to work out for the A's? Because I mean, we got Rooker. Do you really want to play Brent Rooker in the outfield regularly? Soderstrom has been hitting enough that you've pretty much got to play Soderstrom. You've got him at first base. You got Nick Kurtz. You got Brent Rooker. It does feel like it's going to be kind of an interesting combo to figure out how to get all three of those in the lineup on a regular basis. But at the same time, I get it. Kurtz, as fast as he's moved to the big leagues, I don't think there was a lot he's really being challenged in Las Vegas very much. Leading the minors in home runs at the time of his call-up. And again, this guy who's got power, but he's, I would say, really more of a pure hitter who has power than a guy who's a slugger who you hope can hit a little bit. It's a pretty polished approach.
Were you a little surprised to see that he went that high in the draft last year, or no, because of the way that the A's pick?
I think if it hadn't been for the injury he had mid-season last year, he may have, been even maybe a little higher. Like he could have been in that Charlie Condon mix of like the best pure college bat, but he'd kind of been a couple of injuries. That's the one thing we want to see this year is kind of a full healthy year. To his credit, he came back from it. It was a shoulder injury that when he had it, there was a question like, okay, is he going to be able to come back this season? He made it back pretty quickly from it. But I do think like the time that it happened, right kind of in the middle of the season where teams are all kind of lining up their boards and all, I do think it may have affected him a little bit. Like looking at this a year later, we want to see Charlie Condon be healthy. But when you look at, say, who's the best just pure bat out of that draft, you look at what Kurtz is doing, you look at what Cam Smith is doing. Charlie Condon, obviously, we want to get him back from he had a wrist injury he suffered in spring training, but he's got a lot of work to do to kind of catch up to these guys who both are already in the big leagues. And I think Condon kind of is probably months away. So I do think that this is shaping up to be a fascinating AL Rookie of the Year race. We talked about on the Hot Sheet show. I don't even know who's going to win on the NL side, but on the AL side, man, there's a lot of good candidates.
Was this just another example that Major League Baseball loves the fact that they're going to be able to get rid of the minor leagues even sooner because these draft picks, all of the Angels draft picks are just going to the big leagues, and now a number 4th overall pick. Teams are like, well, we can just wait and let these kids develop in their NIL deals in college, and we'll just call them up to the big leagues in a year, and then we can get rid of more minor league teams.
I will point out with that, like if this ever happened that we pushed it more to the college side, y'all mentioned about Vlad Jr. earlier, you talked about first base, free agent contracts, and you said most guys aren't free agents at 26. When we talk about like what we see with a Bobby Witt Jr., when we see the guys who are those premium high school draftees at the top of the draft, they're going to take a little bit longer. But those are also those are the guys, those are the international signings, are the guys who signed the massive free agent contracts. Why? Because when a Bobby Witt Jr. makes it to the big leagues at 19 or 20, when I know Jackson Holliday hasn't had a great start to his big league career, but he's 21. When guys like that hit free agency at 26, 27, that's when you see the Soto type deals. If it gets pushed more and more to the college side, even when those guys move quickly, you're still talking about free agent at 28, 29. And doesn't feel like a massive difference, but you guys know better than I do. That's a ton of difference when it comes to your bargaining power as a free agent.
All right. Who are other draft picks that we should be, other call-ups that we should be looking at or anticipating or watching that are already up?
There are a couple of interesting ones this week. Craig Yoho came up with the best changeup in the minors. I don't know if it's going to be a brief stay for the Brewers pen or kind of like where they bring him up and then they send him back down and then they bring him up. Or maybe he's there to stay, but he's kind of an interesting reliever to watch. The one I want to ask, I'm getting to talk to catchers here. Agustín Ramírez just came up for the Marlins, and the knock on him's always been his defense. I know y'all talked about it before. Also, the Marlins doing things a little differently here now in the minor leagues with their catchers. But I'm going to be interested to see how his defensive development continues in the big leagues. He's got to do it pretty quick because Joe Mack, who's a top 100 prospect for us, is coming up behind him. But as I'm watching, I feel like that catcher development and improvements in the minors are you see so much more there than you do in amateur baseball that I feel like it really makes it kind of tough to evaluate catchers. Like when I'm watching now and you say, okay, on a low pitch now, it seems like every team is teaching show a target, drop the glove, and then kind of catch it in an upward motion. Never saw that 3-4 years ago. We're seeing things change so much on the catcher side that I do feel like when I'm saying a guy can hit, but I'm worried that we're hearing worrisome reports about his defense of a minor league catcher, some of those guys end up being Austin Wells. So I think that's a really tough thing to evaluate. So I'm interested to see how Agustín Ramírez develops, how much he catches for the Marlins, because while I've heard a lot of concerns about his defense, I do feel like that catching defense is something that proper instruction, the tools to do it, and a lot of want to and kind of intelligence can kind of help guys exceed what maybe is the expectations for those guys in the minors or are coming out of the draft or being signed as an international amateur. But for you guys, again, as two guys who've done it, it feels like that. How do you kind of look at it as far as how a guy can develop? Is it fair to say that a guy can probably make more improvement defensively as a catcher than you could if you're talking about shortstops, you're talking about center fielders or a lot of other positions?
100%. I think shortstops, you're gifted as a shortstop as a 16-year-old. Can you work on mechanics? Yes. But there's so many things in the catching game. And Agustín, he's in the Marlins system, so clearly he hasn't called any pitches, on his own since the Marlins are calling them all for him. But that's the biggest thing. Behind the dish, you're not going to move a ton differently. Yes, guys can change the receiving and all that stuff. ABS will kind of squash a little bit of that. But defensively, you got to learn to call a game. You got to learn to call a game, and you have to learn to be able to deal with that loco pitcher on the mound who may or may not be the same guy from one start to the next, from one relief appearance to the next.
That's the part, when I look at what we're talking about with what the Marlins are doing, right now, I kind of think of this, you mentioned ABS, right? Like one of the reasons I think that we'll see eventually a challenge system, but I don't think we'll go to full ABS ever where the robots are calling every pitch. Beyond it's a bigger change than you probably need to have. Once you go down that road, it's really hard to ever come back because in the minors, the umpires who are developing, if they're just doing robo-umps, how are they ever going to learn to call balls and strikes? The same thing here. I mean, obviously it's a little bit different because in college, the number of catchers who actually call their own game in college is a very small number. So it's something that catchers are having to develop as pros. But like you said, if you don't do it in the minors, I don't know how, even if you don't do it until late in your minor league career, it's going to be really hard to kind of develop that skill when everything else is getting tougher too. Like that, it does seem like to me that A-ball is where you want to learn that because yes, you're 100% as a catcher going to make mistakes. You're going to do that in a little bit of a smaller stage where a lot less people are going to notice and where the pitcher also can't get nearly as mad at you because you called the wrong pitch there, but at the same time, he also missed the target the next 7 times. And, that was his fault too. So everyone's kind of learning at that level. It seems like you kind of want to figure those things out on a much smaller stage than you would at AAA or the majors.
FT fam, I hope you have as much confidence as Penelope right now, who is an avid Spot and Tango fan, okay? And she uses the code FOUL, Kratz, because this is a personalized dog food subscription service that prevents you, of course, from going to the store to pick up the food, and she just gets the highest quality unkibble. That is what they're known for. And I know you love the quiz part of it too.
It's a super quick quiz, but it lets you give them the information and they tailor it to what is needed based on their age, size, activity level, all things that are custom for each and every one of your dogs.
Yeah, human grade ingredients in that unkibble. USDA meat, fruits, and veggies that are approved there. Upgrade your pet's bowl with Spot and Tango. Unkibble. Go for it. For a limited time, go to spotandtango.com/foul. Use code FOUL to get 50% off your first order. That is spotandtango.com/foul. Code FOUL to get 50% off your first order at spotandtango.com/foul. Code FOUL.
How fast is Chandler Simpson?
Oh, man. I love watching Chandler Simpson play. That play in Sunday, the controversial one where it's like, oh, is this, a hit or an error? Well, the thing about it is he's exceptionally fast. That's the fastest home to first time. I love the video y'all are showing here, but that was the fastest home to first time we've seen this year on a swing, 3.9, which is basically 80, and StatCast 3.9 is really more like probably a 3.8. The funny thing about this is I don't think he'll lead the majors. When we talk about StatCast stats, we talk about sprint speed. Sprint speed is your top speed. I would say that I've talked to Rays officials who say if you said there was a 60, right, there might be guys who could be as fast as Chandler Simpson in a 60. But baseball speed's a little more important is how quickly you accelerate, and no one accelerates faster than Chandler Simpson. And that's what's going to be the difference for him. That's why he steals all those bases. That's why he's going to be the fastest guy in the majors because, yeah, okay, if you tell me that someone can be faster going first to home on that rare play, that's less useful than if Chandler Simpson is the fastest from home to first, the fastest from first to second, the fastest. And again, this is the thing we're going to be interested to watch is defensively, we're starting to see more times where he kind of just is not having to think about it and just sees a ball in the gap and just takes off at it and basically outruns the baseball. Those are the ways he's going to impact the game. And as I love to keep saying, I think he's a better hitter than a lot of people are giving him credit for. I think if he's a hitter, think of him, there's no power there, but there are some real bat-to-ball skills. And the thing that I just keep watching him do that impresses me is when he gets velo in, he can get that bat head out. And that's the thing to me that usually when you talk about these 80 grade runners who you question like they have no power, usually they can't handle velocity like that. Chandler Simpson has shown, not every time, but he's shown pretty consistently he can. And once he shows that he can handle an inside pitch, then you go away and then he just whacks it to third base or shortstop or in between the hole. And if he gets it, if the shortstop or the third baseman has to take a step or two, one way or the other, yeah, he's not being thrown out.
We know the potential's there, so it's a yes or no. Will he steal 100 bases in the big leagues in one season?
No, because I just don't think that the game's going to let him, right? Like, even if he hits 300, we're now in the world. I know that they've loosened up the stolen base rules and all that, but at the same time, we're in a risk-averse era when it comes to steals. When Vince Coleman was doing that, if he got thrown out twice on Tuesday, they wanted him to try 3 times on Wednesday, right? Now it's something where it's going to be something where if you don't have an 85% success rate on it, he's going to get some red lights, right? There are going to be times they give him the green, but it's never going to be like it was when Vince Coleman or Ricky Henderson was doing it, where those guys had the green light every time they reached base. Now I feel like it's like, okay, sometimes it's green, sometimes it's yellow, and sometimes it's red.
Yoho, how good is this? Do we have a different name for the airbender? Like, is this the air slicer?
So I'm working on this because Yoho, there's got to be something here. I'm not creative enough, but there's got to be something with the Yoho yo-yo maybe or something like that, because that kind of works, maybe. But it is such a fun changeup to watch. I know that, changeups aren't the sexiest pitch, but man, it's fun to watch when a guy goes back to back to back to a hitter with a changeup and get some, where the hitter knows the changeup's coming and it just doesn't matter because it's just such an effective pitch. And by the way, we saw it last night. He throws 95. I don't want to make it sound like this is Doug Jones out here, who's like, okay, it's 84, but check out the changeup. This is a guy who's going to have enough other stuff. He's a well-rounded reliever who just happens to have this absolute filthy weapon of a changeup.
You got anything, Kratz?
Nothing. Why?
You don't have a nickname for him? Like even a dad joke kind of thing? Nothing?
Nothing. I mean, I've been thinking about it since I saw him in spring training. I mean, he had some elite outings in spring. it's such like the name is so easy. Like you got to come up with an easy nickname. I like the Yo-Yo, but
it's not the best. But
not the best.
Let me ask you this, guys, because I did want to ask you, because I've been watching a lot of catchers. We got 13 catchers in our top 100 right now, right? And
damn,
when you're looking, obviously the left hand nowadays, left hand's more important than the right hand, right? How you receive. What do you, when you see a catcher, what tells you that this is a guy who is going to work for him in the major leagues, versus a guy who it feels like it's a lot of times these small margins. Obviously, you hit on the intelligence, the ability to work with pitchers is a key aspect of it. But as a receiver, what are the things that tell you that this guy's special?
Strength. Guys who can control. If you're talking about just receiving, it's the strong guys. Like AJ was never considered like the prototypical, like great receiving numbers catcher, but his strength helped him control the ball, especially with the way the dudes throw now. You have to be able to beat the ball to the spot, wherever it is, no matter where you start, up here, to go down, to come up, all that stuff. You have to beat the ball to the spot. And so if a guy has fast, strong hands, those would be the like intangible, out of game things that I would look at and be like, okay, he has a better chance of being a good receiver.
Ethan Salas is the one that stands out to me that way, what you're talking about right now, as far as a minor leaguer, like where he beats it to the spot, and then when he catches it, it really stands out that like it's a soft, strong hand where he never seems to have to kind of work at it, right? It's something where, like when you see guys go up at the bottom of the zone, one of the things I'm trying to watch for is kind of the fluidity of it. And you see those guys who they're trying to do it, but they don't trust their hands enough, so they kind of stop. And so then they go down a little bit, and then they go back up. And those guys don't seem to it doesn't seem to pay off as well for them as the guys who can, like you said, who can beat it to the spot and then are comfortable, confident enough in their hands to do it in one motion.
So for me, I look for something different. I look for the way they catch the ball. Do they catch it cleanly? That to me is the biggest indicator of a guy that knows what he's doing and has good hands. When you watch a catcher, and people ask me like at the high school and college level, what do you look for? I look for guys that catch it cleanly, right? They don't clank a lot of balls. Yep. They just catch it. They just catch the ball, right? They catch it. They catch it. They catch it. They catch it. It's over here. It's over here. Oh, they're not chasing balls. They're not missing balls. They're not, and it just looks easy. The easier it looks, JJ, the better they'll be able to receive. It should just be easy. It should just be like, boom, caught another one. Oh, I caught it. And you don't even notice them. That's the thing. Like if you notice a catcher, something's not right. If the catcher goes through a game and you never notice them, other than maybe if they get a hit or they throw a guy out, they've had a great game. You just want to catch the ball, make it easy, and go on to the next one.
The one that when you said that made me think of it is when I'm watching a guy where a slider kind of backs up on him, so he's expecting it out and it comes back in on him. The guys who can do that and kind of make that that backhand look easy, that kind of tells me, okay, that's where you mentioned it, Kratz. You mentioned about how shortstops you can improve some things, but like I kind of think of it as almost like that's where you kind of show those hands, almost those shortstop type hands behind the plate. Is that fair that when a pitch doesn't do what you expect it to do and you have that ability, that confidence to kind of handle it without like it seeming to be a big deal at all, that to me kind of stands out as, okay, that guy's probably got a little bit better hands than the average catcher.
You can tell. Just like AJ said, you can tell. Like you can see it right away.
It's funny when you said that, AJ, because Eduardo Tate is considered one of the better young defensive catchers in the minors. But one of the things, trying to watch some video of him this week, you see more of the ball at the end of it. Like it seems to it stays in the mitt, but it doesn't just stay centered in the mitt. It rattles around a little bit, where you're telling me it's like, okay, it's a little bit different than that guy who when Salas, it just hits the mitt and it disappears. It's like a pillow.
There you go. Hey, more of these kind of conversations every single week on Hot Sheet. Obviously, you catch these combos within Baseball America too. But JJ, thank you so much. Great having you back on.
Great to see you guys.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.